Hello everyone, it's Amy Rasavi here with a card for My Favorite Things. And with Easter just around the corner, I have been itching to use all things bunny related just because they're so cute. But this card is not specifically Easter related. It's just got the bunnies from the Birdie Brown Some Bunny stamp set, which is absolutely adorable, and it was sold out for the longest time because it's been super popular, obviously, because it's the cutest thing ever. And I'm just stamping a couple of the different bunnies onto their coordinating little die cuts. I always die cut and stamp first before I color. I just find it easier. I don't have too much trouble holding, even little ones like this, just holding them with my fingers while I'm coloring. You just want to make sure, obviously, that your ink is dried, which again, My Favorite Things, the black licorice hybrid ink that I always use, it dries really quickly. But yeah, you just want to make sure your ink is dried before you get to coloring, get your fingers all over it. But yeah, I stamped the two little bunnies and then one of the flowers and the little flower wagon onto their matching little die cuts. And then I'm just coloring them in with Copic markers and doing some really simple coloring. I've been really inspired by, I think it's Tariko. I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm horrible with pronunciation of names and everything. She's the one that actually designs the Birdie Brown line. And if you don't already follow her blog and have all her stamps from MFT, you should. But I love her coloring. It's inspiring. I really, really love it. So I have been slowly taking notes and trying to leave more white space and all that kind of stuff. And it's nowhere near as good as hers, but it's fun to experiment and try something different. So I did little bunnies with the same coloring because I'm going to use one on the inside and one on the outside. So yeah, kept the colors really simple, and then I decided I wanted purple and yellow flowers. So I used the same purples that I used for the little bunny outfits for the flowers. And I'm just dabbing the color on because these are such small little images. You're not really coloring, you're just kind of like dotting the color on just to fill in the spots. And then I use just a little brown marker to do the centers, and it's the same brown I'm going to use to quickly color in this little wagon. So once I'm happy with that, I'm going to add just a little bit more of a lighter shade of brown. And then I've got two different shades of green for the leaves. I chose the same colors of green that kind of match the cardstock I'm going to use in a second here. So once I'm done with all the coloring, we get on to the card front. So I've got the Blueprints 22 die-namics, and I just took the large stitched panel and the circle, and I die cut some blue raspberry and some snow cone cardstock. So that'll be kind of the main part of my card front. And then I took MFT's Grassy Edges die-namics and die cut two different shades of green cardstock, which are Green Room and Sour Apple, two of my favorite shades of green. And then the little cloud is actually just from the Some Bunny stamp set, or die-namic set. Cut that out of white cardstock, and then I've got the two little cloud dies from the set. And those I'm going to stamp kind of in the background on this blue raspberry piece here. So I'm kind of figuring out how I want my layout to go, where I want that little die cut cloud to go. And then I'm going to take my anti-static powder tool here, an embossing buddy would work just as well. And just scribbling that on the area where I'm planning on stamping these little clouds. And I'm going to ink them up with MFT's Sweet Tooth pigment ink. And just kind of keeping the circle in place here because I want the clouds to kind of be behind the circle and then obviously peeking out from around it. So I'm using both the little solid outline cloud and then this little kind of stitched outline cloud here. And just inking them up, stamping them onto the blue raspberry cardstock, and then I'm going to coat that with some detail white embossing powder and then flick off the excess, and I'm going to melt that with my heat tool, making sure to get my heat tool good and hot before I bring it to the cardstock. And I still ended up warping the cardstock a little bit, but I'll fix that in a minute. So get this all good and melted, and then once it's cooled off, which only takes a few seconds, I'm just going to rub away the excess powder residue from the powder tool. Gonna rub that across and then start finishing up the front of the card. So I'm gonna adhere this Green Room die cut grass first, and I just use some Tombow Monomulti to do that. So I'm gonna adhere that because that's kind of gonna go in the background basically. And then still kind of fiddling with the layout before I fully adhere everything. So I get everything kind of laid out, and then I'm going to adhere this little die cut cloud in the background. And then the circle gets adhered, and then I'm going to adhere the little bunny and the wagon that I've chosen to go on the front. So then once I've got all these guys adhered, I'm going to adhere that last little piece of grass cardstock that I die cut from the sour apple cardstock. So get that into place. And then I wanted to stamp the Some Bunny sentiment from the stamp set. So I'm going to ink that up again with the black licorice hybrid ink, and then just stamp that right below the die cut grass. And I purposely left a little bit of space to the right of it. And sorry, my head kind of gets in the way here, but I just took one of my Copic multi-liner pens to add 3 little dots right after the sentiment here, and just making sure I kind of get them straight so they don't go, you know, on a weird angle or something. So once I've got that, I'm going to adhere this to my card front, which is a standard A2 size card base, so 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and using a good amount of the Tombow Monomulti. That way I can correct any little bit of warping I kind of created on the cardstock with my heat embossing. So I like using this adhesive to get a little bit of wiggle room so I can get things kind of straight on my card. And yeah, it's glued down good and flat. And then on the inside, I just die cut another little piece of the sour apple cardstock with the smaller grassy edges die-namics. And then this is where I'm going to add that little bunny and flower that I colored earlier, just to finish off the inside, and then add another sentiment from this set right along the bottom. So it just kind of finishes off the whole little scene. So as always, thank you guys so much for watching and subscribing and thumbs upping and all that fun stuff. If you're interested in any of the supplies used, they're all from mftstamps.com. So follow the links below the video, or if you're watching on the blog, there'll be links to all the supplies used. And thanks so much, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.